Gas prices are at an all-time high. The car market is rising day after day due to multiple reasons that we're not going to go over. And you're still a broke boy who needs a first car, or maybe honestly just a daily driver. Well, don't worry, buddy. Today I got you covered with 10 extremely reliable cars for right under $3,000. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? What is that? It's a freaking green screen, baby. We got a green screen finally. My name is Mark Gordon. Welcome back to the channel, of course. Today we're going to be going over top 10 best, most reliable cars that you can buy for less than $3,000 in 2022. And I'm just so happy we got this green screen growing, boys. Hopefully the quality is going to be a lot better. I don't even know if I'm going to know how to use this, so there's a good chance that it's just going to be green back there for today. But who knows? Maybe I'll figure it out within the time that it takes. If you guys want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop to pick yourself up a hat, shirts, or shorts. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. And there is no better way to start a list about reliability without talking about a Toyota, specifically the Toyota Camry 4th generation. Built from the years 1997 to 2001, this is arguably the most boring Camry to ever come out, but that's okay because boring saves money, buddy. These cars were built for one reason and one reason only: to get you to work and back on time, and to do it very cheap and reliably. They come with a 2.2 liter inline 4 that makes 133 horsepower, and sure, that's not going to win you any car shows, and it definitely ain't going to win you any races, but that's not the point. These cars got a very good 27 miles per gallon for gas mileage. Parts are absolutely dirt cheap if it ever does break, which probably won't happen since it is a Camry, and it has 4 seats and decent space for all your practicality needs as well. And yes, this is a 20-year-old car, but you can still find an incredibly clean example for right around the $3,000 mark. This one that I found only has 130,000 miles on it in very nice condition for $3K exactly. There's a reason why everybody jokes about these 99 Camrys being a very good daily driver, and that's because it is. But what if you want something a tad bit more fun? Well, look no further than the wonderful, the amazing Volvo 240. Yes, that's right. You can find an actual enthusiast car that you can daily drive without having to worry. Now, before we get into it, there is one huge downside for some people, and that is that this car is rear-wheel drive. So if you live somewhere where winter is a factor, you might want to go with something else. But if you live somewhere you can drive this and not have to worry, then it comes with a 2.3 liter inline 4, making only 114 horsepower. And yes, that is very slow, but it's a daily driver. It's not going to be a race car yet. Because if you ever decide that you want to build this car up, you absolutely positively can. People build these cars up all the time to be fun little beater cars because they can take it. They take the beating. And you can still find them for incredibly cheap. I found this 240 wagon, which in my opinion is a little bit cooler than the sedans, for exactly $3K with only 160,000 miles on it. That will last you an absolute lifetime, I promise. Plus, you get plenty of space, insane safety, especially for its time, and you can still have fun if you want to, since it is a rear-wheel drive car. But what about you boys that like to carry a lot of things or go off-roading every day? Well, I'm sure you've already thought about this car, but what about the Ford Ranger? The Ford frackin' Ranger has this very weird like cult following behind it because it's one of those little trucks that can just do whatever you want it to. It's kind of like the Toyota Hilux, and that one also has a very scary cult following behind it. They come with a 4-liter V6 that makes 160 horsepower, and surprisingly that's actually one of the larger numbers on this list. Then again, this is also one of the heavier vehicles on this list too, so pick your poison. Now, I know that buying a truck to some people seems like a waste of money, and you probably think that every truck out there is just a gas guzzler, but you, my good friend, are very wrong. The Ford Ranger gets an incredible 40 miles per gallon. Yes, that is more than the damn Camry that we talked about in number 10, and it does that while still being able to go up like slight inclines and things. You can get that whole package for only $3,000, bro. It's literally highway robbery. You have a car that if you need to go over a curb, boom, shakalaka, you can carry everything in it except for your friends, because there's not a lot of space in the cabin, but everything else is great about it. It's an amazing truck. I love it. But maybe you're afraid of trucks. Maybe trucks send shivers down your spine. I can't tell you that I understand why, but I can give you another good car, the Honda Fit. Now, the Honda Fit has got to be one of the most boring cars out there in terms of performance, but that's a good thing for somebody that's looking to get into a daily driver because it shows that Honda was more focused on creating something cheap and reliable rather than fast and expensive. They come with a measly 1.5 liter inline 4 that makes a hilariously small 109 horsepower going to the front wheels, but where they lacked in fun factor, they made up for in daily drivability. After all, it is a Honda, and Hondas are like the bread and butter of reliable. And yes, if you decide to cut the mufflers off of it, it's going to sound like any other Honda, so please just don't do that. The most surprising part about the Honda Fit isn't that it gets 30 miles per gallon, it's that if you decide to lower it and put some wheels on it, they can actually look pretty damn decent. I mean, as decent as a Honda Fit can be, but still, pretty good. Like, a surprise, it looks pretty nice. And since these cars can be found for exactly $3,000, I would say that's a great deal. But I think that we need to talk about one more rear-wheel drive car for a moment, specifically the Ford Crown Victoria. In case you don't know, the Ford Crown Vic was used by the Popo for years, and they didn't do that because it looked boring. They did that because it was a perfect mix of reliability mixed with speed. They came with a 4.6 liter V8 that made 239 horsepower, and it was going to the rear wheels. And while that may sound like a deadly combo, it really isn't. People think that just because a car is rear wheel drive, it is automatically deadly from the start, but that's just not true. You can very easily handle a Ford Crown Vic from stock, even if you live somewhere where winter is a factor. And if you do manage to deal with it through the winter, which like I said, won't be that hard, then your summer is going to be an absolute blast, since you can do all kinds of donuts and burnouts with your boys. It doesn't get the best gas mileage, however, since it is a V8, but it gets right around the 20 miles per gallon mark, which is kind of average for its time. And plus, since these cars do only cost right around the $2,500 mark for one with only 80,000 miles, yes, it's that cheap, you'll already be saving a lot of money with repairs. But we're going to hop right back into the Toyota family for a minute, because the Camry is not the only boring car that Toyota made. The Corolla is another one, specifically the Toyota Corolla 10th generation. Alright, so yes, we're going to be talking about the 10th gen Corolla here just to narrow it down a tad, but any Corolla that you can find is a good choice, to be honest. The 10th gen, however, came with a 1.8 liter inline 4 that makes 132 horsepower, and it was front wheel drive, of course. It also got a pretty damn good 28 miles per gallon average, which paired with the fact that they will only cost you $3,000 for a very nice one, that will barely cost anything for repairs. I think it's an amazing deal. Like, everything about it is dirt cheap. Once again, these cars aren't anything super fast or super fun, since they are just a front wheel drive car with only 130 horsepower, but they actually can look decent, okay, if you decide to modify it a little bit with all the money that you saved up. Just, I'm begging you for every fiber of my body, just please don't try too hard to stand out from the rest of the Corollas, because that's usually when people make their cars just look horrible for attention, and we do not need any more of that, okay? Just, if you want to modify your Corolla, that's fine, do it. They can look pretty good, but don't go over the top, okay? It's not an eye catcher, just live up to that. It's not going to be an eye catcher. Alright, you stinky man, we are going to be staying in the Toyota family again, so we can talk about another Toyota, the Toyota Celica 7th generation. The 7th gen Celica was built from the years 1999 to 2006, which is a pretty good wrong time. So there are quite a bit of them out there, and while some people may think that they have something very special and those are going to be trying to sell it for more than $5,000, the majority of the owners know that it's a cheap car and they're going to sell it for cheap. I found one for literally only $1,200 with right over 100,000 miles, and before you think, well, it's a sports car, dude, it has to be unreliable, you're wrong. You're wrong, my boy. The engine that came in this car is actually the same that came in the Camry, a 1.8 liter inline 4 making 140 horsepower to the front wheels. Don't let the looks fool you, people. These cars make for some great daily drivers, since they are pretty much a cooler looking Camry. If you wanted the Camry I talked about in number 10, but you want to at least look somewhat cool, here you go. But please, for the love of God, just tastefully mod this car, because it can look very good, but it can also look just terribly hideous at the same time. So be smart. These cars are very hard to build correctly. Alright, let's take a quick jump back to the wonderful family that's called Honda, and let's talk about the Acura TL 2nd generation. The 2nd gen TL was built from the years 1999 to 2003, and it looked like your average everyday sedan, but with a bit of a more aggressive side to it. It looked a little bit more angry, and it lived up to that name. It came with a 3.2 liter V6 that made a nice 225 horsepower, and it was front wheel drive. And that engine managed to get a decent 25 miles per gallon, which is not at all bad for its time that it came out. And like I said before, it has that sort of, aggressive styling to it too. So while it may not be like a showstopper, at least it looks a little bit better than your Corolla or the Honda Fit. You know, it looks a little interesting. Plus, it's a Honda. Reliability is going to be through the roof, and if you ever do need some parts for it, well, don't worry, because parts for this thing are so incredibly cheap, you're not going to have to worry about it at all. I found one for $3,000 exactly that has only 126,000 miles on it, and if you know anything about cars, then you know that that means this car is not going to die anytime soon. It's a freaking Acura. It's only 126,000 miles. You're probably going to get another 126,000 out of it. But you knew this car would come eventually. Honda Civics are inevitable when talking about reliability. Specifically, we are going to be talking about the 7th generation Honda Civic. Built from 2000 to 2005, this Honda kind of ruined the looks of Civics in terms of like coolness, but that's okay for you because they are still amazing daily drivers. They get an insane 38 miles per gallon, which is almost as good as the Ford Ranger, and they came with a 2-liter inline-4 making 160 horsepower to the front wheels. Now that isn't great, sure, but if you know Hondas, then you know that that number can easily be changed if you ever do want to modify it. And yes, the Civic may be like the catfish Camaro of the Civic world, but that doesn't mean that it can't look okay. It's just going to take a little bit more research and work to make your 7th gen look good. Plus, I found one with only 115,000 miles for only $1,700, bro. So with all the money that you saved, you can easily get some mods to make this car more like your own, you know what I mean? Just be careful because there are a lot of, you know, manly men out there that are going to make fun of you because you have a Civic. So if you buy that Civic, they're probably going to be like, hey, man, you didn't get a V8. But hey, I like the Civic, man, and that's all that matters. But we are finally down to the final one, the car that I think is the best daily driver for less than $3,000, and we are talking about the Lexus LS400. This car is like such an oddball, but it's still just so good. It's weird how well this car works. It came with a 4-liter V8 that makes a pretty damn massive 270 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive. So obviously with that combination that I just told you, you might be thinking to yourself, this is obviously a race car, not a good daily driver. But it's not. It was built for grandmas everywhere, but for some reason, Lexus decided to put a huge V8 in it. And that might scare you away since you think that V8s are unreliable, but boy oh boy would you be freaking wrong. Some guy took a Lexus LS400 and drove it for a record-breaking 1 million miles. That's more than any Camry is going to get you, okay? It's a freaking Lexus too. So even this example with 220,000 miles that I found, it's going to last you another 800k miles if you decide to take care of it. That's nuts. And I really can't stress that enough too. If you want this car to outlive you, then you have to give it the love that it deserves, and it will 100% pay you back. Okay, just make sure that you spend your time doing routine maintenance on your LS400, and you are going to love the car. They also look incredible in my opinion. The best looking car on this list easily, and they are still rear-wheel drive with decent horsepower. So if you ever want to, you can absolutely have a blast in it if you are a car guy. The only downside I can think of to this car would be that if you live somewhere where half the year is winter, then driving a rear-wheel drive car might be a death sentence. But honestly, bro, if you've been driving for at least like 4 years, I think you could handle it. You know, just drive slower in the winter. But guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I don't know if this is going to be actually being used yet for like, and I'm gonna have like a picture back there, or if you're just gonna be looking at a green screen all day. But either way, I'm happy to have like all the nasty stuff from behind covered up now, so hopefully that's gonna increase the quality. I feel like I'm raising the camera a lot more than I should. That's another thing too. I can't use my stand anymore because if it's not wide enough so you can still see the outskirts over there, so I can't use my stand. And so I have to hold the camera now, but maybe I'll buy like a tripod or something and try and get it up here. I just want to get this video quality better out there for you guys. A lot of you guys are supporting the channel right now. Right now has easily been our best month ever. And so like, thank you guys so much. I want to make the quality better and better from here. I don't want you guys to be, you know, bored and get sick of it. So trying different things, trying a green screen now, gonna probably invest in a stand. Like I said, I'm taking off my glasses every video, gonna try and line up the camera better editing, better thumbnails, using better tags. Hopefully in the future I can get a better camera, maybe more builds. I can build the 350Z more. We do have car reviews coming out. Obviously we're doing top 10 budget cars. We're back to doing the good, bad, and ugly. So much stuff that I'm trying to do right now for this channel to make it better for you guys. But either way, though, I thank you all throughout the support that I've been getting on this channel. It's amazing. Thank you guys so much. Das Vidania. Have a nice night.